Okay, friends, you already know how this goes. So I got books that I purchased, but most of them are going to my office. So by bookish girl math, it don't count. What up, Search fam? Sade here. Welcome or welcome back to the channel. If you're new, my name is Sade. I'm out here curating and co-creating a cool ass life. And we're doing the first quarter book haul. Now, whether this is your first time coming across my little corner of internet, or you keep coming back and have not joined my internet family, might I invite you to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. Be made aware of every time I post a new video. It's usually on the weekends. All right, friends. Now, I've been sitting with this bag of books in my trunk to talk to you all about the books that I purchased over the first quarter of 2026. And as I said, most of these books live in my office, which is why I had to bring them home. And because of that, that means that it kind of don't count for money that I've spent. All right. So first of all, I've already unboxed this one, so I'm not going to show y'all the whole box. But I did get in the first quarter my physical copies of the Her Vicious Beast series that are the special editions. And this is book 5, which I'm currently reading. I'll talk to y'all about that at the end of the month. But yeah, so that's fantasy. Why choose? Shifters, very dark, very violent. I'm having a great time. That's all I can say. I've also talked about this one in the March reading wrap up, which is Practicing New Worlds by Andrea J. Ritchie. And this is a book that talks about from the Emergent Strategy series, which is a sort of grassroots communal based framework for resistance and community building. So this specifically talks about through the lens of emergent strategy and abolition. It was pretty good. I have enjoyed this one. But now that I have finished it, this will go back to the office. I also got Feeling by Bettina Judd, and this is Creative Practice, Pleasure, and Black Feminist Thought. And I saw this because I was shopping for books to help with my potentially research and all of this. So I like this one because it gives an understanding of how creativity functions, especially the possibilities of it for Black women. And then it gives ways in which you can sort of lean into that and practice it and reflect. So it's not very long, and it's sort of more workbook, but it does have like the academic-y sort of elements to it, as well as things like visual arts and poetry and how that sort of leans to that. So this is here for now because I want to read it in the not too long. I've already talked about this book, which I'm currently reading, and that is Baldwin, A Love Story by Nicholas Boggs. This was a gift, and it is the most recent James Baldwin biography. And this one is set through the lens of his romantic and interpersonal relationships, which I find super compelling. And, I'm a Baldwin scholar. I do work around Baldwin. I just love James Baldwin is actually one of my favorite writers. So this one, she a thickie, and I am probably close to halfway done with it. So this one's taking a bit, but I'm having a great time. I saw this book and I was like, immediately yes. And that is Black Women's Intellectual Traditions by Christen Waters and Carol B. Connoway. And so this is an edited volume that thinks through the Black intellectual traditions and what Black women have offered to that. Because I think frequently that when we talk through Black intellectual traditions and the New Negro and all that, we talk about Du Bois, we talk about people like Fanon, we talk about Alain Locke, but we don't talk as much about women and their contributions to our intellectual tradition. So this definitely appealed to me, and it's a book of essays, right? So I'm quite excited to eventually read these. Again, when I'm gonna get to all this, child, take it up with somebody else. That's above me. Really, it is. I also got the Disturbing Profane by Joseph R. Winters, Hip Hop, Blackness, and the Sacred. This is for my hip hop and religion class, and I've been looking at other potential texts that I can use to make that course better. So that's what I thought about this, especially because the books that I use for the time being are getting a little bit dated. So I wanted to get myself up on what's coming out in the field, which is something that you do as a scholar. Is like, I have to keep up with who's writing what and, what the new things are. In that same vein, for my Afrofuturism and religion class, I picked up Black Apocalypse, Afrofuturism at the End of the World by Tavia Nyong'o, who also wrote Black Fabulations, if I'm remembering correctly. And again, this is one of the sections that I talk about, not only in the Afrofuturism class, but even in hip hop religion, is this idea of apocalypse and dystopia and how that fits in within these trajectories. So, hopefully I will come up with at least one reading out of here that I'll teach the next time I teach Afrofuturism and religion. This one was an exam copy, and it's called Afro-Paradise, Blackness, Violence, and Performance in Brazil by Christen A. Smith. And just based off of this, because I do work around Afro-diasporic things, and, I have quite a tie to Brazil right now, having done a Fulbright there and wanting one of my future research trajectories to be about Brazil. This is why I picked this up, to give myself more things to read. And I have things written in Brazilian Portuguese that I read and want to read, but it takes a little bit longer because translating takes a bit. I'm still working through my fluency in Portuguese. For one, my interest in Black herbalism, but also I teach a class on Black magical traditions. I got When Trees Testify, Science, Wisdom, History, and America's Black Botanical Legacy by Beronda L. Montgomery. And I got this to potentially see if there's anything in it for my interest in Afro-diasporic religions, particularly Hoodoo and Conjure, at the intersection of Black folk and herbal medicine. So there you go. I picked up The Fire Inside, which is the Dharma of James Baldwin and Audre Lorde by Rima Vseley-Flad, who also writes Black Buddhism, which is about the Black radical tradition and Black Buddhist practice. And I found that really good. So because I'm interested in those things, both as a scholar of African-American studies and someone who has a disciplined devotional practice, this is one of those books that I got towards that. So I'm super excited to read this. I'm actually going to take this with me for my devotional practice on my trip at the end of the month. So I'm excited to dig into that. I think I also talked about this, but I got A Good Sex by Candice Nicole Hargens, PhD. And this is a scholarly look at Black and other BIPOC sexual practice and how we think about good sex and how we have conversations around intimacy and sexual desire and things like that. I'm a nerd. I have interest in these things, so that's why I picked this up. And because there are still not a whole bunch of books that sort of lean into studies of that sort. So that's of interest to me. I also got Every Chance You Get by Sloan Spencer, and this is in a series, the Rugby Lovers series, which I have the first book of this, which is Every Version of You, and I met Sloan Spencer, and she's very cool. I really like her. So this one is about... I'm going to read you the back for this one. As fly half for Philadelphia's men's rugby team, Jonah knows a thing or two about trick plays, but after a life-changing lottery win, he's forced to keep his sudden windfall under wraps. So what's a 25-year-old himbo to do with his newfound fortune? Buy a farm outside the city, of course. He just didn't expect his new neighbor to be her, Renee Wild, his former professor and dream woman, except Renee has no time for love, especially not with the irritating young athlete who's moved in next door. A single mother with a dark past, she's built a quiet, controlled life for herself and her daughters, and no one can take that away from her, not even the hot rugby player who thinks he can charm his way through life. But Jonah isn't playing games anymore. And the more he shows up with his too wide smile and unshakable determination, the harder it is for Renee to keep her walls intact. So I was super excited to read this because, you know, child, we love a himbo. We do. I picked up Ain't I an Anthropologist, Zora Neale Hurston, and the Beyond the Literary Icon, which I thought this would be super interesting because, again, the way I study religion and Black studies and things like that, I do read Hurston, and Hurston is a writer and thinker that I look up to, not just for her fiction, but her anthropological work. So I'm very interested to see what this says to me about how she engaged in anthropology to put alongside things like Of Mules and Men and Every Tongue Gotta Confess, where she's giving the folklore that she's gathered. So I'm super excited about that. One of the textbooks that I use for Black magical traditions is Creole Religions of the Caribbean, from Voodoo and Santeria to Obeah and Espiritismo. And this is the 3rd edition of this book. So I got it to have the most updated version of this book because I do have the older copy. I think I have the 2nd edition maybe. And so this is the one that I ended up using when I taught Black magical traditions. And it's a little bit thicker than the other one. So I did need to make sure that the copy I had and the copy that my students got was consistent. So that's why I picked that up. I also got The Color of Kink by Ariane Cruz. And for the same reason you get good text, there's not a lot of texts that talk about, in a scholarly way, Blackness at the intersection of like BDSM, kink, sexuality, things like that. And so I've been looking at this book for a while, so I finally was able to put my hands on it. And I'm looking forward to reading it. This is going to be one of my summer reads. Finally, I just picked up Hoodoo Saints and Root Warriors by Mamia Kai El Jama Bomani. And I hope I pronounced that correctly. And this is more folklore stories and profiles about figures that mean something to Hoodoo. And so, of course, I am going to want that for my studies because we know that's of interest to me. We got through them all, friends. We did a pretty good job. But as I said, most of the books that I got are ones that are towards my continued course development and my research and all of that stuff. How'd y'all do in the first quarter of the year? Did you buy books? Are you on a book buying bin? Are you trying to be better with your purchases? I know y'all know I am, which I actually am pretty proud of myself for not buying a whole bunch of fiction books. Like most of these are workbooks. So like I said, they count, but they don't count. As always, friends, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, tell a friend about the channel. See you in the next one. Bye.